A little over 2 years after ethnic conflict erupted in Manipur, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is expected to visit the state later this week. To understand the issue, what exactly Manipur has gone through, we have with us a Lok Sabha MP from Manipur, A. Bimol Akoijam. Welcome to The Print, sir.
Thank you.
Sir, what impact do you think the Prime Minister's visit will have?
The information, as far as I get it, if my assessment is that it wouldn't have much.
Okay.
It will not have much in the sense that whatever concrete decision has to be taken, that will matter more. Because his visit is more like a, stopover. It's not a dedicated visit to the state to deal with the state's issue. He was visiting Assam and he was visiting Mizoram to inaugurate a railway station or something of that kind. So it happens to be nearby. So he's dropping in for a few hours. If he is trying to deal with Manipur and substantive action is to be taken, I am sure that he would have done it by people from all political party leaders, civil society leaders, prominent citizens, and listen to their grievances, and he would have a series of meetings with the state officials. I don't see that. I heard that he's addressing a public meeting in Imphal. I mean, that's not what we deserve after 2 years of this crisis.
Many in Manipur have also called for an apology, sort of from the PM for the centre's delayed response. As you pointed out, 23, we are now in 2025. This is the first time that, PM is visiting.
See, it is not about the delayed. It is, apology is primarily for what has happened, that his government has failed. The union government was hand in glove with the state government. And I have been saying this again and again, that we tend to forget that the Home Minister Amit Shah said that why should we remove Biren Singh, because he is cooperating with us. What does it mean? That they are saying that whatever he is doing is under their instruction, they are cooperating, why should we remove him? That's what he said on the floor of the House. Similarly, the ex-CM said that whatever he is doing is with the consent and advice of Mr. Modi and Mr. Shah. So the government of India is involved. Remember, not only sending in troops, it is under their instruction. They have changed the chief secretary, the DGP, and they also appoint the security advisor and so on. So the government of India was right from the day one involved. So whatever failure of the state as an institution, they have been part and parcel of this. So therefore, for failing to protect the life and property of the people, for allowing such a tragedy to linger on for so long, we need this moral responsibility and apologize genuinely. And I think people of Manipur are magnanimous enough to forget and forgive. And then we can work together. We said, okay, let's talk about it. What can be done? That would mean the sincerity and seriousness of the Prime Ministers. I don't see that in his visit. Whatever information I get, I call up my CLP and other political leaders. I said, did you get invitations from the Prime Minister? In fact, one journalist asked me also, did you get invitation? I said, none of us.
You've not been officially informed about it?
No, I'm not. I've called up my office. I was there. I came back only a few days back here to cast the vote for the Vice President. So I didn't get it.
Will you be going there?
In fact, there's not officially even said, that the Prime Minister is coming. Their party secretary gave an interview and the press is said they have no idea. Now, the last 2 days, they started talking about PM. But it is always a VVIP. Some VVIP is coming. It's the first time that you see the country's Prime Minister is not able to say that I am visiting Manipur.
So, will you be going there?
I'll be enlisted. I have not because of this visit, I have earlier engagement, not on the day of his visit. And so I'll be visiting again.
Well, I asked you about the impact of the, proposed visit. What are your expectations from the visit?
No, I don't expect anything. And I think it is more like the same attitude, the casual attitude of allowing this crisis to go on and on. I think it's the same kind of attitude. You're going there. I said if it is a serious business, that he would have invited political leaders, civil society leaders, prominent citizen, intellectuals, student leaders, women organizations, and try to talk along with sitting down with the army and the police and the administrative machinery, those people. There would have been a deliberation with the prime ministers right there in Imphal. I don't see that. All that I heard is that he is going to address a public meeting at the Kangla Fort.
Right. You know, we saw the ethnic conflict claimed over 200 lives. More than 60,000 people were sort of, displaced. And it also led to a complete segregation between two communities, the Maitis and the Kuki, Zochin. What do you think, is the solution? How do you ensure not only is there peace and stability, but that the two communities sort of, live together in harmony?
See, the first thing, this issue was not a communal issue, first of all, to begin with.
Right.
Because the Kuki said that they have issue with the government, especially the then chief minister. The question is, if you have a problem with the chief minister, how is that civilian houses were attacked? If you have an issue with the government, then deal with the government. Why you turn it towards the ordinary citizens? That's the first question. Second, if that particular communal violence has taken place with armed people getting involved from the day one, if you see the first image that flashed on social media was the Kuki armed men in Torbung areas while those violence erupted. It is on the third afternoon. By evening, Imphal started burning. Chura Champur and More, all Meitei houses were also burned down. On the third night itself. The question is, next day onwards, why is that the state was not able to crack down? Because you have pumped in more troops, central government, army units, and besides we have two divisions there. It's in a small state. You have two divisions. One is 57 Mountain Division of the regular army, and you have IGR South, which is Assam Rifles, the paramilitary. Two division, you have additional CRPF, BSF troops, along with regular army from neighboring states. Right from the night of the third, the movement started. On fourth, you have pumped in so many troops, and yet this violence was allowed to go on. So you think this issue to be resolved, rather than looking at the communal crisis lens, you should see it as a issue of governance and an administrative crisis. It's a political, administrative governance crisis. You understand what I'm saying? The first thing first. So you said you must rein in the violence. I have been saying it to ThePrint. I think the first interview I gave was to Print on 20th of May. I think they telecasted it on 21st. So if you go back to that interview in May 2023, I said, why is it the government allowing this? They should crack down, rein in the violence. So similarly, now that the overt violence is gone, but these basic elements of the crisis still remain. So you have thousands of people still linguisting in relief camps. They should be allowed to go back to their homes and settle. That is the responsibility of the state. To access to public institution and goods such as highways, hospitals, airport, that must be ensured. These are fundamentally government's responsibility. I must remind you, we are asking a wrong question all the time. Community, Kuki, Meitei. If supposing something happened and the Muslim area, you are not allowed the Hindus to come in. Will you take it, say that the Hindus and Muslims to talk it to each other? Or will the state say, how dare you that you don't allow a citizen to get access to road?
Right.
That is the responsibility of the state. That it is the basic fundamental right of the individual citizens to stay in their own homes, to travel and get access to public properties like highways, hospitals and airports. People forget that Indian Constitution has a chapter on human fundamental rights, and the first article is the state, definition of state, Article 12. Why is that the Indian Constitution starts the fundamental right with the definition of the state? Because all the rights are given in the Constitution is for the state to ensure that the people have that. And two, they also don't encroach on those rights. So all these fundamental rights are defined vis-a-vis with the state. So therefore, free movement to live in their own house peacefully, to get access to public services like airport, hospital, Government must ensure, the state must ensure that the people have it. This is nothing to do with cookie and
Right.
I'm saying that if some cookie, in fact, one spokesperson of one of these cookie arm groups said, you can go on your on risk. It said on record, we have not blocked. How can government say that? When somebody said, go on your risk, we will kill you. He said, what does the government do then? Who are you to stop people from traveling on the road? That's what the state position should be. We will allow and ensure. During the infamous Kuki Naga class, people were traveling on the road. Nobody was stopped. You understand that time? And but unfortunate incident happened on the way, but the road was never ever inaccessible to the wearing communities then. In India, it has never happened. Why you are normalizing by saying the cookies and Meitei should talk so that people can get access to highway? I was giving an example to another person. I said that if think about, in Chambal, if some dacoit said that we will not allow these people to go, and you say talk to him so that people can travel, you don't say, no, it's illegal. You can't stop people from getting access to public property like this. So what is essentially a question of constitutional right and governance has been reduced to a communal problem. It's a ridiculous idea. Then you talk to each other so that you can get access to the road. It's the government of India's responsibility to ensure that the citizen has access to public facilities, airports, roads, hospitals, isn't it? But strangely they turn into a Hindu-Muslim problem. Nobody says that you should talk to each other so that you can get access to the hospital or the road. You don't say it, no? So fundamentally, this has been turned into a communal problem. Last, very unfortunately, what we have seen is that, again, same example, when the Hindus and Muslims fight, Godhra ho ya Muzaffarnagar ho jo, wherever this riot happens, you don't say that a community should talk to each other. The first thing you said is that what is the police doing?
The law and order.
Why is it? What is DM doing? What is that minister is doing? What is his role? So you frame it as a constitutional administrative problem. But here it's been somehow turned into a,
But why do you think that is?
it's a deeper, I said this is nothing but, in colonial times, they had the same attitude. The first thing they will say that Hindu-Muslim problem is something essential to the Indian society and so on. A lot of post-colonial Indian scholars have argued against that, saying that Hindu-Muslim relationship is a byproduct of a colonial state process. It's part of that process. And some will bluntly tell them that it is this divide and rule policy. Similarly, so-called ethnicity to ethnic conflict, which is an interesting term to be used, in the Northeast, is also seen as if it is an essential part of that area. They don't realize that it's also part of the colonial process and post-colonial Indian processes. So as counterinsurgency, you propped up some tribal groups to fight another tribal groups. You pump in money on one side to counter the other. So this ethnicity is nothing essential or inherent in Northeast societies. It is a byproduct of a colonial and a post-colonial Indian state processes.
Right.
You see, you don't see that. When the Hutus in Rwanda, the Hutus and Tutsis, I keep on giving this example, something to remind the people in this country that the crisis, you are looking as if it's your distant thing, you are handling communities out there, they are fighting each other. Like the Europeans have treated Rwandan crisis. There's a slight difference in the European response to Rwandan crisis versus their response to Yugoslavia. One is right in their backyard, one is the other. So you have a similar kind of things. Indian state must negotiate like as if you are a UN troop negotiating. No, you are handling your own state where the Indian constitutional structure has been collapsed. The state is not able to ensure the citizens to get access to public services, hospital, airport and the roads. And you are turning it into a cookie Meitei problem.
Right.
And that's why the armed cookie group spokesperson boldly said recently, only 2-3 days back, it's on record, it says, anybody can travel on this highway, we have never stopped, blocked them. You can go on their own risk. What does it mean? Tell me on your own risk that they will attack. Now, whose authority that we are going to call for here? Is a dialogue between Meiteis and Kuki, or government in there saying that you cannot threaten our citizens from traveling on the road? And it is my responsibility as a state to ensure that freedom of movement of Article 19 is accessible to the people of this country. Only when you treat the other as not essentially part of them, you will see result like a UN peacekeeping troops, because we don't have to stay. We are trying to help you out. Bachit karlo, talk to each other. That's the attitude. If you are asking me, why this is happening, that's the same attitude, nothing else.
But recently, the Ministry of Home Affairs, it renewed the suspension of operations agreement. So, what impact do you think it will have?
This is also the same problematic aspect. The cabinet has taken the decision to withdraw from this.
Correct.
Assembly has unanimously taken, where that means this is not a BJP resolution. It is the Assembly's resolution. Why? Because there have been allegations that these groups have broken the ground rules. And then many of them have been accused of getting involved in this crisis. In fact, the first person with the assault rifle, those groups of people with the assault rifles in on the 3rd of May in Torbung area, which has sparked up and warned many of us that this is not longer a individual community having a fight. There are armed groups involved here. It has a serious implication for, exacerbating this crisis, getting the issue more uncontrollable, because of this presence of these armed groups. They are accused of being a member of these Sioux groups. So why is that government is signing a new agreement? Does it mean that these allegations of their involvement is false? Or have they given them a clean sheet? Without investigating these ongoing things, and despite the assembly having taken this decision, to sign this is a deeply problematic aspects of the problem. But for any, as a principle, any grievances, people have arms to talk about it, say, come on the negotiation table, we will talk it out, peacefully resolve through dialogue. That's a legitimate process for us to follow. So in that sense, signing Sioux agreement is okay. But the problem here is that these Sioux that you have enforced, they have been breaking those ground rules, and there has been allegation of their involvement in this crisis without investigating and without even having an accountability process. How did you renew this one? It's a big question. There must be accountability first and transparency. And then you talk. You cannot force the government to sign the agreement and talk. If the government says that Manipur Assembly resolution doesn't matter, and all these allegations, even if you have pictures, so what? That would only mean that government of India is involved, and you have been using many of these groups all your life to fight the Naga armed groups or the Manipur armed groups. This have been accusations, not mine. This is written in books by writers from outside the state. That many of these groups, armed groups, were propped up by Indian security agencies. It's written in books.
So, why do you think the Kuki group decided to sort of make the highway 2 operational?
No, they said that they have never blocked it. What does it mean by it is operational? But they are saying that buffer zone has to be protected, must not be crossed. What is buffer zone? Can you have a buffer zone for Hindus and Muslims here? What is this vocabulary? That's why a lot of things we have been talking about is nonsense. The fundamental question that we have not asked is, why is that despite 2 divisions of army, despite pumping in so many troops, how is that you cannot stop that violence? गोधरा स्टॉप करने में कितना टाइम लगा आपको? जो दिल्ली में जो हुआ है या यूपी में जो हुआ है, जो भी हुआ है, कास्ट कॉन्फ्लिक्ट हो या हिंदू मुस्लिम रायट्स हो, कितने दिन लगता है? Why is that you have allowed this to happen for so long?
But that's what I want to understand. Why do you think it is?
That is what I said. Government of India is playing a game. For the BJP is to polarize the society. Majority Hindu versus Christian minority. You see, you split. They have, it's already in a newspaper that BJP had an understanding with many of these Kuki armed groups. They have openly, you just Google it and see newspaper report that many of these Sioux groups supported BJP in election in 2017 and 22. And there are clips of meeting where Amit Shah addressed the meetings in Churachandpur. And then there is a sworn affidavit by one of the group members of the SU in the court saying that BJP had said that they will take care of our demand if we help them in the election. So this violence could be a product of that one. So they are playing games. On the other side, savior of Maitai as a Hindu. On the other hand, savior of tribal, if you push the society to such an extent of a split, which is what they have been doing and I have been warning right from the beginning. They are trying to make it in such a way that division has come to this level, then they will have a negotiation, then you will give something about the separate administration, something on that demand. You will start negotiating it. You are creating a premise so that you can start that negotiation. You understand? And then you, savior of the Maitais, you are trying to save the community, savior. So wherever BJP goes, you have this polarization of society. And it's strategically you are trying to play, like it's killing two birds with one stone. That's what they're doing.
Even the 2023 violence, you think it was motivated?
Yeah, it is. It is orchestrated. On
By
the
whom?
by the Indian state in collusion with their own people on both sides. You remember that these cookie politicians have never appealed for peace right from the day one. I can show you, you check it on newspaper. Many CSO from Manipur have appealed for peace in the first few days. Don't fall into this divide and rule policies. This is a typical way some of the Maitais have always done. But I think this time they have gone beyond that one. Right from, within 7 days, you started talking about separate administration. Instead of calming down and stopping this, you have been waiting for this split. For the BJP and the Indian state, they wanted to destroy the state in these two halves. That's what they are doing.
I want to take you back to your sort of, debut Lok Sabha speech where you sort of compared the ethnic violence in Manipur to the partition. What do you think are the central lessons, not only for the state, but the central leadership as far as, this Manipur experience is concerned? What are the learnings?
See, for me, the first thing I learned in my speech also, if you listen to my first speech, major chunk of is not about Manipur. It is about how the Northeast is to the rest of the country. And all that we talked about in this country, post-colonial scholarship says that there is a continuity of the colonial in the post-colonial as well. Like IPC and everything now, BNS, you are changing decolonization process. In academic literature, we also have that many of the categories and perspective is driven by our colonial categories. So post-colonial scholars have been trying to reverse this decolonization process. This government of India has been trying to change the law, colonial time law, without changing it. But that continuity is alive vis-a-vis with Northeast. That's what I was speaking on the floor of the House. That you exclude Northeast from history and put it as an anthropological subject. This is how the colonial Europeans have done to India. India was an anthropological subject, not a historical subject. You have continuously excluded, and a lot of people are talking as if government of India is mediating in their problem. It's something like, we trying to solve their problem rather than just we have a problem in Manipur. It is our problem. This word is very different. It is their problem. They have been fighting. They are like this. And we are trying to solve. We are negotiating. Am I making sense? That's the kind of attitude. So what I have learned is that 75 years as a student of social science, this crisis has taught me, cutting across political spectrum, intelligentsia, there is an issue of Northeast in this country. You see this as the other. I'll take you this latest publication by some of the leading intellectuals and jurists, ex-member of judges from High Court and Supreme Court. They saw dead bodies of this crisis in their so-called independent report without realizing that Indians and Africans have been fighting against the Western media or otherwise for publishing dead bodies of us and not theirs. During coronavirus, for instance, people's dead bodies floating on the Gangas everywhere, they will sow it in Africa or otherwise. But about their own countries, even though the same problem happens, that they don't sow it, they respect their dead bodies. Double standard, people have called this as Orientalism. This is a racist Orientalism. And these guys are doing exactly the same thing. 17 bodies of dead people, cookies, all of them, that too. And they're publishing it. So when the Westerners does to us, we protest as Orientalism, but for the Indian mainstream intellectuals, jurists, member, professors in this committee dare to publish this body. And they think that this body will bring peace. They are going to inflame the passion again, isn't it? And without even positioning within a context, they will publish these pictures and narratives. Partition studies have shown, I can cite you, Urvasi Butalia's work. He says, when I put these partition stories and anecdotes and so on, I am aware of communalism that exists here and now today, how they will appropriate and use this information. I have to be very responsible when I use this and put in context a particular narrative so that these information are not misused. What this so-called independent, progressive report does is they throw these pictures all around without putting into context what is these pictures are.
Right.
And this is so-called progressive. 3 judges, professors of universities. If it is not the classic sign of that continuity of the colonial mentality here and now in India. The same people have fought during the coronavirus vis-a-vis with the Western media. They have written articles saying that this is Orientalist attitude towards us. So Northeast is the other, is what I get to see it. You will not happen. That's why I keep on asking, had this issue be in Bihar or UP, I have asked, you can see these pictures on journalists, I have asked, and they shook their head like this. Do you think that the government of India would have allowed this violence had it been in Bihar, UP, Punjab, Rajasthan or Madhya? They said no. So I said, that answers. What is Manipur or Northeast in general place in this country? That's the lesson I learned. And many people learn this in my part of the world.
You talked about Northeast, and Northeast as the other. I want to ask you, because the BJP as a party, the government, obviously Modi government at the center, they always talk about the kind of development, the kind of growth that Northeast has undergone under their tenure, as far as the center is concerned, or even when the state government was there. They have been talking about the fact that never has Northeast, received so much attention in terms of development. They talk about the highways, they talk about the infrastructure, they talk about, the kind of projects that are being undertaken there.
This is part of the same thing. India ke independence comes in 2014 kind of a logic. That's what they are doing it. They don't. When we start from the scratch, the foundations, how slowly it's been built, and then you are capitalizing on that one. So it's a historical process. So it is not that during this particular regime they have done it as force. In fact, what we are seeing is Manipur is a classic example. Your attitude gets revealed all the more starkly than this. And when you do some development work, don't present to us as if you are doing a favor. It's not a meherbani on us. It's a state's responsibility to develop your own people, your area. There's nothing a favor to the Northeast. And that must be kept in mind. Union government is not doing a favor. It's doing exercising its responsibility towards the country, which they are supposed to do it. Right. There's nothing special about it.
Before I come back to Manipur, I also want to take a moment to, sort of talk about your transition. You are a professor, becoming an MP. You're quite fond of music. How has all this been for you?
No, it's see, one thing behind my films or otherwise engagement, I am deeply political in that sense, conscious of things, whether issues here or issues related to Northeast. So I get involved. So in this transition, as you change the site to work at, but I must confess that it's not a very planned kind of thing. I was disgusted with the political class of my state, the way they kept quiet, they don't speak things what they should and ought to speak, they don't speak. So I felt some sense of historical responsibility. I have seen such crisis before. This is the worst form. Earlier, they didn't do it so much. Now we are facing do or die kind of a situation. Here again, they kept quiet. The manner in which they have dealt with these issues, the way the outside the Northeast and outside my home state talking about us, you have this sense that it must be confronted, but nobody is doing this. Politicians are keeping quiet. That frustration has forced me to, you know, rightly or wrongly, whether I've thought about myself, I may not be the best equipped to deal with within court politics, but I say, well, you learn that, you go ahead and do it. It's a responsibility, and many of the things I can handle it better. That's how I'm doing it. If you see, in Parliament, I put across, whether inside or outside of it, whether it is in committee meeting or as a chairman of so and so committee in back home, I do my job as a public office, and I wanted to set up an example as well. This is how a politician. But there are other aspects of politics which, given me a chance, I don't want to be part of that. There are elements of being in this field which is not easy for normal, ordinary people to deal with. It's something that I have read in Weber's famous essay on politics as vocation. I have seen he talks about this contradiction between ethics of convictions, your values, principles, and ideology, and what he called it ethics of responsibility, the decision that you take. This will come in contrast to each other. The things you do, and as a politician, which you ought to do, will come in contradiction with your values, your belief. But he says you need to negotiate between the two. Proportionality aana chahiye, kind of thing.
You continue to teach?
Yeah, it's in my bone marrow. Cinema, music, and intellectual life is in my bone marrow.
Music?
Yeah, I still do. I'm cutting 2 of my songs, new songs. I'm doing it still. But the time, I don't get it. I was, before this crisis happened, I was working on a script, another feature film that I wanted to do, but it has delayed. I didn't have time to look into that. But hopefully, after these issues get some semblance of normalcy, then I should be able to look into those areas as well.
Well, Manipur again, the previous state administration was also sort of perceived as pro-Mighty. So that had also led to this alienation, as far as the Kukizo and other tribal groups are concerned. Again, I'm asking you as an MP, how do you think this has to be addressed?
This is also partly false. And it also had an element of truth, I would suggest, because some of the statement by our leaders, they speak as if they represent their community. It's in both sides. That's what, as a politician, you should represent your people, your citizens. But unfortunately, there are politicians on both sides of the, these two communities who become, this is incidentally in the print interview, I didn't name, I only say X and Y. I say some X will prop up himself as a savior of this community, Y will prop up himself as a savior of this, and in the process, ordinary people will suffer. It's something that I said in your first interview in the print. You go back and check it. I knew that this is what they're going to do it. Partitioning project, it is unfolding. It is, do you call it divided, right? So I think that accusation is because of this, that some politicians, the way they speak and conduct themselves as if they represent their community as savior. That's why this image is created. But the fact should not be forgotten. In the former Biren Singh's government, you had 2 Kuki cabinet ministers who were all the way clearing files and so on. You get a point now. So that government cannot be called a Meitei government. That was the government of Manipur, because it's not only Meiteis, there were Pangals, there are Kukis, there are other tribes who were cabinet ministers. You can't quite call them as this one. You see, understand? Including 2 cabinet ministers throughout. So how can you call it as a Meitei government? But absolutely, there are politicians who spoke as if they represent their
Community.
community, and they backdoor they are spreading themselves as a savior of their community. In fact, this is the political game they have played with the lives of the ordinary citizens. That is why in my speech I say, for example, I don't agree with many of these politics, including cookies, exclusivist identity politics. I don't agree. I have no qualm about saying this. But I will not blame the entire community or demonize the community. That's why he consistently says cookie politics, they're elites. So you can't blame that former government is not Meitei. You can't conflate that government with Meitei community. So that's what I said. If you have problem with that CM or the government, why did you burn down Meitei houses? You see, why you started demonizing Meiteis? If you have problem with some of this cookie politics and their separatist politics or Jobio, why should you demonize the entire community?
Right.
That's something, this is something that we learn from our freedom struggle. Gandhiji said, we are not fighting against the British people, we are fighting against British rule over us. That distinction must be maintained. हर चीज में you have communalized it. Instead of asking why the armed men are roaming around to challenge Indians, say you said Maitai armed men, you don't talk about the other.
Right. Apart from the opposition that has been critical, of course, of the previous state government as well as the current Modi government, the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh has always, taken up this issue of, it has been critical of, both the center and the state, that they have not been able to address, the violence, they have not been able to address the situation. How do you look at that?
No, there's something interesting what I've seen. Broadly, there will be slightly right-wing groups spoke as if they are defending Maitais. And this left liberal are the savior of the tribal minority and all, without realizing what is the Indian state have been doing in this part of the world, what is the historicity of these communal projects, identity ka problem. That's why I'm saying they will read about the Indian state and African global South scholarship, European colonial epistemology and so on. They will talk, but they will not reflect on themselves when they deal with the Northeast. I'm asking, how is that the Indian history say Northeast को क्यों निकाला गया? And why is that predominantly Northeast is seen as an anthropological subject? They don't even reflect. Showing dead bodies without any compunction, you saw it. And they are saying, Lem, strange as it seems, their defense for showing this picture is exactly how the New York Times editor had responded to criticism against them from the global South. You understand? That's a very irony. So, if I have to see mainstream joining this information war, one on one side, one is, I can see this slightly right scholarship and others defense Maitais and left liberals on tribal minorities. These are ideological prescription that doesn't fit. They were trying to fit the reality to their schemes. Some very consciously because of their ideological projects. Some are simply trapped in that one. In that light, RSS criticism of the government is very interesting, the one you have picked up. But I think it is also a kind of a larger tussle between RSS and BJP. You understand? It should not be seen as Manipur specific.
Right.
I think that comes from a larger dynamics between RSS and the Modi-led BJP. You know that there is a dynamics. I think it is in that context I see.
Right. And we are talking about the PM's visit that is scheduled for this week. Keeping that in mind, what steps do you think the central government needs to take sort of to, rehabilitate the displaced people as well as, sort of rebuild communities that have been affected by the ethnic conflict?
I think the first thing is to frame this crisis not as a communal or ethnic conflict. First, bring in this as a political constitutional issue, administrative issue. It is a failure of the state to ensure fundamental rights of the citizens, to manage, to deal with the crisis. that I said that number one, they must not buckle under any pressure and firmly stand that all the IDP citizens must be resettled in their own homes. And that responsibility the Indian state say, come what may, we take. Don't threaten us because of this. We will ensure that they resettle. If you started acting against it, you are a criminal, you are anti-national, you are trying to destroy the country's tranquility and constitutional order. If resettling our own citizens to their own places, you are going to object, then you are anti-national, you are working against the constitution. That kind of a firm stand, government India must take it. This holds true for getting access to public services and facilities, airport, hospital, education institutions, and highways.
The blockades.
That must be ensured. Don't reduce it to cookie. That's why I'm saying some group refuse, not allow some group. You can't sit and negotiate with that. This government should intervene and say nothing doing on this. This is wrong. You cannot do this. So this is the firm stand. That's the first step. If you wanted to process, government of India is sincerely doing that. Now the government of India must consult with the local leaders, political leaders, Congress, BJP, JDU, whatever political party, regional party is there, have a consultative meeting with them how, you need to use them. You can't have this top down from Delhi all the time. So have a conversation with this civil society groups, prominent groups, and tell them that this communal divide will only harm the state and us.
Right.
We must move beyond that. Whatever grievances, we will talk about it, but this law and order must be ensured. There must be public order. Right of the citizen must be respected. You can't hold this as ransom to some political grievances or demand. That should be the government of India's position. Next, you go ahead and started having this financial package. Everything has been disrupted because of this. So there should be a special economic package to revive. Destroyed home, not only the directly affected people, the state as a whole has been affected. So there must be a measure to deal with this. Then, later on you can deal with what I consider it as critical issues. Question of illegal immigrants influx from the neighboring countries.
Myanmar is an
You remember,
issue.
this also should not be Manipur specific. You need to have historical understanding. India as a nation state, when it was born, we have porous border. In Punjab, this sector, 65 war, things becomes a little stringent after that. Till 1965, many of these border people moved back and forth. So do in the then East Pakistan, Bengal mein ye hua tha. Only after 71 war, that becomes stringent. But you see the northeastern border, the terrain is such, it is porous. So people have been coming in from that side. And unfortunately for India, its neighbor Pakistan ho ya Burma, they have been very unsettled right from the day one. So there have been crises. So people have been pushed. But we also have a pull factor. In India Northeast, you have this ST category and facility. If you compare, so there's a pull factor. People come in because of similarities and they settle down. Thus the population grows, and it became a problem because there is a ethno-nationalist organizations in fighting in Burma or otherwise for a separate Chinkuki state, Jalingam, and that politics has influence in Manipur as well. Don't forget that. This has been part of, so there's an international dimension to that. So this illegal immigration question must be dealt with it. Here, we need to distinguish between who is a citizen and who is not, without demonizing communities. If you are a nation state, then you have citizen and non-citizen. Bengali hai, to Bangladesh, you can't allow Hindu ho ya Muslim, you can't just come in. Punjabis from the Lahore sector, you can't allow them to come in. Tamil from Sri Lanka cannot, vis-a-vis you can't send it. So you should distinguish ethnicity with citizenship. So we need to delineate who is a citizen and who is not, given all this strategic and porous nature. So even if you have problem with NRC, call it by any other name. Remember in Shakespeare's, rose will remain a rose even if you call it by a
Whichever name you
different
call
name.
it by. Yeah.
So call it any name you call it, but I think there must be a judicious process of delineating what is a citizen, who is a citizen, who is not.
So you're saying NRC kind of
Yeah, it must be done because we do have
Manipur.
a problem, and because of this ethno-nationalist mobilization, that gets complicated. And then drug and poppy is a huge issue.
Yes, I was
This
about to
UN
ask you
report
that.
has said it that Golden Triangle productions and plantation has shifted towards the Myanmar side. Then Myanmar is our neighbor. So in Manipur, it has a trickle down. Much of the poppy cultivation is happening on that side. So there is a trend. This, you don't need to communalize this issue, but everybody must accept that there is a poppy plantation. It's a huge problem. Don't excuse that, poor people here, tribal people here. That's nonsense. It's a criminal. It has a serious. The money produced from that one will finance election and others, will be something like a Colombia, and your democratic process will be silenced. It's a huge issue. Besides, youth being affected by this. Initially, now what I come to know from my local sources is that even production started in Manipur. Over and above this poppy, we have a synthetic drug, which is a huge problem. And local elites are involved in that one, cutting across community. And I'll give you one example. There was the BJP ADC chairman, who is a cookie guy, who was accused, almost got red-handed by narcotics department, police department, with 20 plus crore worth of thing. He was released on bail and blamed his driver. Driver said it's mine. Can you believe the driver of that man is dealing with business of crores of rupees? And who was accused of shielding that cookie chap, BJP chap, was Mr. Biren Singh. He was been accused as the one who make him got scot-free. So, but this communal forces will say that Biren is anti-cookie. He's the one who saved that cookie guy. We were caught in narcotics, and narcotics mean who's doing war against drug. So don't politicize, but India must realize that drug and poppy is a huge problem, and it is a sensitive border area. The amount of money is employed, the player will get, it will become a security dimension as well, besides the societal threat.
Right.
So poppy cultivation, move it out of your communal dialogue and take it as a serious one. It should be cracked down.
You mentioned NRC, but your party overall has been quite critical of it in
No, I
Assam.
say there are issues. But remember that NRC, when 2003 May, when this amendment was introduced, Congress also backed it up. Isn't it? 2003 में जो amendment आया citizenship, इसमें Congress supported it. But what is, I think, decoupling of CAA and NRC is the major issues. But we learned from Assam experience, the process might lend up in genuine citizens suffer from the major issues. But I'm saying that these problems should not stop us from delineating who is a citizen, who is not.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying is that you learn your lesson from this and ensure that then we must develop a process, strategies to do a judicious way of distinguishes who is a citizen and who is not. Otherwise, you influx, aate rahega, demographic profile of the area will change. It will affect. And Manipur issue is not unrelated to this aspect. So poppy, illegal drug, unfortunately people are playing politics over it. Congress ki time mein kiya hai. I said this is a national issue. Deal with it. But remember that I'm just saying it that war against drug and you are accused of shielding somebody who was caught with the drug, and that doesn't speak very nicely. So I think, but I definitely hold the position that poppy and drugs, synthetic drugs, this whole spectrum of narcotics is a huge problem, not only for Manipur but for national, because it's a border area. Remember in Punjab, drone istemal karke, they are dropping in drug supply and all that. This will destroy our society and youth. Besides, from drug illicit money, your democratic processes se leke har cheez mein it can affect. So it's a serious issue.
Right. 6 sort of banned underground outfits have called for a shutdown during the PM's scheduled visit. And they've
When?
also,
Today? I haven't heard.
yes, and they've also said that, one should boycott it. How do you react to such statements?
I wouldn't say boycott. I'm just wanting to see how the people respond to it. My only complaint is that the Prime Minister should have shown a little seriousness and honesty. If you're visiting the state after all these years, then my expectation is that you come as a dedicated visit to the state, have a series of consultative mission, listen, man ki baat bhi suno aap, उसके मन की बात ही कहते रहता है, and you listen to the people's grievances. And I was expecting a prime minister. You see, he's not a BJP man for us in that sense, right? Because he's the Prime Minister of India. He's not a Gujarat Prime Minister. He's not the Prime Minister for Gujaratis. He's not a Prime Minister for BJP. He's the Prime Minister of India. He should behave and act as a responsible Prime Minister of the largest democracy in the world with 5,000 years old civilizational history. He needs to behave like that. जो मैं कहता रहा हूँ ना कि राजधर्म दिखाना चाहिए. If he is serious, I would have expected him to announce it openly. I'm visiting, and I want to meet women's group, students groups, artists, civil society, prominent citizens, political parties, and the administrative machineries. I want to spend time from morning to evening. If I fly back in the night, it's okay. And that would show the sincerity and seriousness, not coming in, decorating Imphal and addressing a public meeting and then kuch bhasan deke, and probably he will again say, Congress ne ye kiya hai. I won't be surprised he'll end up that. That will be an insult and demeaning of the office of the Prime Minister if he does that. So my idea is that this visit is like just drop by because I was visiting Mizoram kind of thing. We don't deserve it. I think it comes to me as more like an insult.
And how do you see the, how since the president rule has been sort of imposed, how do you see the role of the Home Ministry? How do you think they have been able to sort of tackle the violence? Has there been greater stability since it is under their control?
Neelam, I have said, चीफ मिनिस्टर को क्यों हटाना है? वो हमसे कोऑपरेट कर ले बोला ना लोकसभा में. He said the CM is cooperating with us. उसका meaning क्या है? What is the meaning of that? Because whatever they are saying, he's doing right. So how do you say the government of India is not involved? Whatever Biren is doing is because he is saying that he is cooperating. Remember that he said on the floor of the House. Similarly, check press interview by the ex-CM. He says, whatever I am doing is with the consent and advice of the Prime Minister Modi and the Home Minister Amit Shah. That's why I said central government is involved. From changing the chief secretary to the DG, from planting that, security advisors. So our thinking that government of India has taken over Manipur administration to restore peace is not. You remember that this president rule was involved because they could not find a leader after they removed Biren Singh, because Biren Singh faced the prospect of losing a reported vote of confidence because he was expecting that people from his own party will defect. This was the first reason. Second reason, they couldn't have an alternative CM. That is why president rule was imposed, not because they wanted to recover money from constitution and so on and so forth. So your question assumes that their intention is to recover from the constitution. No, it's not. You don't see why this president rule was imposed in the first place.
But BJP also
and
says
second,
that...
I just want to interrupt. Sorry, I'm interrupting
that's
you.
Fine.
And second, you know what my suspicion is? Violence stopped after they took over, because if it is happened now, it goes directly to the government of India. Initially, you have a facade, state government, cooperating with us, he's doing, it's an open admission that we are one. We are like that two wheel of a cycle. Double engine bolta hai na, that's what they are admitting. He is cooperating, why should we remove him? That's what Home Minister said on the floor of the House. And the same ex-CM says that whatever I do is with the consent and advice of. So these two government is one and the same.
But the former
now the form
CM
is they stop the violence. Why? Because if the violence happen, the government of India will be exposed. They could stop just after taking over. Why? Because they have that power. They have the power. Now that facade is gone, you can't blame a state government. There is nothing called a government of Manipur. Directly will come. During the Lok Sabha election, I suspected that they didn't intervene because this is a BJP government. Lok Sabha election aane wala hai, and whatever happened, the blame will come straight to Modi and Home Minister. So you have a facade. So the blame is allowed that, and he also was playing his own game, little game in that large chessboard of government of India. Remember that this violence stopped the day when they took over. And this should tell you that the government in India has that power and the leverage to stop the violence. Question is why they didn't do it at the beginning.
But they have also blamed, the previous state government, Biren Singh government, as well as the BJP. They've also blamed the Congress for politicizing this entire
Who?
issue, the Manipur issue, the violence issue.
No, no, who blamed?
Biren Singh government, the previous
No,
Biren
who
Singh
blamed
government.
Biren Singh? Who blamed Congress?
No, I'm saying the Biren Singh government, the previous Biren Singh government, as well as the BJP as a party, they've also blamed the Congress for politicizing
That they
this.
have been doing, Manipuri mein kahawat hai. There's a saying in Manipur, no, jagoi soiraga sumang da tainai, it means you make a mistake while dancing and you blame the stage or the courtyard for your mistakes. I mean, that's what they're doing. There is a legacy issue of our crisis. Is from colonial period, how Manipur was classified, the administrative structure, and post-colonial Indian state followed and strengthened many of those harmful political moves and practices. So you have a legacy issues. But the question is, what they are doing is, I often give this example, some people laugh at it. I think that's the best way to describe them. I said, there's a patient in front of you. I am the doctor. And a doctor says, instead of taking care of that patient in front of him, he said, तुम्हारा बीवी ने उसको क्यों पिलाने दिया तुमको? Why did your parent introduce cigarette to you while do that? Am I making sense? Doctor का job क्या है? I have to handle this problem, no? Government की ही सामने people were slaughtered. You have police, you have security agencies. So you have to take responsibility to divert from that basic question. They are saying Congress ने ये किया है. ये तो another pattern है ना BJP का भी. Everything you blame on Nehru, you blame this, you blame that one. It is simply a timidity to take responsibility. Their BJP's own inability to deal with the problem and then blaming everything in the past. You don't realize that from the scratch, this country began, brick by brick, and you are capitalizing on that one. If the earlier governments, Congress or a non-Congress, who have ruled this country after the Britishers left, they have built brick by brick, and you are building it now. If you don't think you would have started over, it's a process. Instead of recognizing that everything you blame, har cheez mein I think this BJP love Nehru like anything. There's a joke who says, after dying, this guy who criticized God landed up in heaven. So the believer said, how come he landed up in heaven? He said, हर चीज में वो भगवान को याद रहता है वो. He does something, he says, ये भगवान ने नहीं है, ये भगवान ने नहीं, ये भगवान ने. He keeps on mentioning Bhagwan. So he is the one who remember more than you guys remember God. That's why he is in heaven, Bala. So I think they remember Nehruji as like a god.
Well, one last question. Any message for Prime Minister Narendra Modi as he's, likely to be in a state which you represent?
I think I should say that if you are sure to visit, please do what I have said it. Have a dedicated visit to the state. Have a concrete steps that I have suggested to take it. आपको राज धर्म दिखाना चाहिए. And don't show this. It is an insult otherwise. I mean, if you say sorry to the people of this state, I think the people of Manipur are magnanimous enough to forget and forgive. And you tell them, I'm sorry, and we can begin now. What should we do to restore peace and normalcy? I'm sure that all the people will be working with the Prime Ministers.
Well, thank you so much for your time. This is Neelam Pandey reporting with Sabika and Sana from New Delhi.